Welcome back, friends. We're here for another live. And I'm about to log into Instagram. So I'm always trying to look at both of you, but it's kind of hard. So today's, let me just hop in here and explain everybody at once instead of repeating myself. So let's go. Shit. This is not on. Well, never mind. I'm on. We're live, guys. Welcome back, friends. We are here for another Bendy Live on this day, March 9th. We also changed the time. We moved an hour forward in the US. So if you're in Europe and you thought this live was going on at 11, now it's different. Sorry, your time might be different than mine. Anyway, why are we here today? Today we are talking about Q&As. So Q&As, especially regarding, of course, training. That's what my major topic is usually about, but also about age, weight training, and questions that I get asked a lot. And so, without further ado, can you talk? Let's dive into. So the major questions that I'm gonna talk about today is three questions. I'm gonna talk about, am I too old to get flexible? One of the most common questions that I get asked. And then, how am I gonna get tight and stiff from weight training, and how I'm gonna deal with that? Since I'm always promoting weight training as well. And then the third one is, how long does it take to get flexible? Big question that I get asked. So first off, let's start with the biggest topic, which is age. Am I too old to get flexible? And honestly, age does matter to a certain degree. So don't get me wrong. I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm going to have a real talk today. And age does matter to some degree. Why? Is because when we age, our body tends to get tight and stiff. Why? Well, we use water. We lose water in our body, and that losing water creates this tissue to be less lubricated. And so reducing water in your body, it gets your body to be, especially muscle tissue and connective tissue, that is what you deal with when you stretch, is going to get dried out and tighter. So when I talk about muscle tissue, of course, is your muscles. Connective tissue, I mean your ligament and tendons. Let me just remind you, when you're stretching, when you're training flexibility, you are lengthening the muscle, right? You're lengthening the muscle tissue to some degree. After that, especially in certain poses, like using your hips, using your shoulder, using your spine, you will also encounter a certain type of stretching into your ligaments. So there is like ligaments and muscles are the primarily tissues that are actually doing something when you are stretching. The tissue that you don't want to like really stretch too much is tendons. Tendons, by the way, muscle tissue, you know what it is, your muscles. Ligaments is the tissues that connect bone to bone. They just literally go across bone to bone. And tendons is that connective tissue that attaches your muscle into the bone. So that particular tissue you don't want to stretch, right? The ligament, you want to stretch it a little bit, not too much, because they're like not supposed to stretch too much. Otherwise, you dislocate your joint. Muscles are the one you really want to lengthen. So what happens is when you age, there is a decrease of just, well, also hormones. Like, you have relaxing, elastic. You have this type of hormones that has a lot to do with being flexible as well. So when you age, your hormone changes. You have a decrease of water content in your body. So again, the earlier you can like start stretching, the better. So I would say, of course, if you are younger, it's going to be a little easier to stretch and get quicker results. If you're older, it's just going to take longer. But don't get me wrong, you will be able to improve no matter what age you are. So I just want to make sure that you're not going to take this information as in like, oh, I'm old, like it's finished, I cannot stretch because my muscles are tight and there's not enough water in my tissues. No, don't get into the mindset. You can be flexible at any age. Of course, the younger you are, the quicker result you're going to see. And the older you are, it's just going to take longer. So I have my notes here. So that's what we said. So I would say one thing that I would say that's really, really matter though is your mindset. So what I mean by that is if you are open-minded and you are positive about, I want to stretch, I want to see how far I can go, I don't care how old I am, I just want to like give it a try, and you have that positive mindset to it, it's gonna make a whole difference. So I remember when I started, sometimes I refer to my own experience because it really, it's what I live. I walk the talk, guys. I mean, what I teach you or talk about, I lived it on myself. So I remember when I was 27 and I started training. I honestly didn't care. I mean, I cared to know how long would it take, and I wanted to know, am I too old or too young? I mean, I'm too young. Who's ever too young for that? I wanted to know like if that mattered, but like what I really think mattered the most is like I was having an open mindset, and I was like, I want to give it a try. If I think this is possible, it's all I need. So in reality, what you really need is to have either a good coach for sure that is going to guide you throughout your journey of flexibility, but also really having an open mind and just approach this with like, I will always say just have low expectation, because it's better to be surprised in your training than just have high expectation and then you get frustrated because it's like, well, I thought this is going to happen and it's not happening, and like, when is it happening? I'm just like stretching for nothing. Like, you really have to have an open mind about this. So let me tell you another thing about why is it better to start the younger you are, the better it is because, well, for once, you're gonna see faster result, of course. When you're older, you're just gonna see slower result. And by the way, when I say older, what does that mean? I'm talking about everything above 25 is considered to be a more adult body, and under 25 I feel like you're really still very young, right? So when I'm talking about adult body, I'm saying everything above 25 I consider to be adult, but everything under that you're still like considered sort of like a child. So okay, of course you're gonna see faster result, but when you're if you're training and you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, even your 60s, you're just gonna have to go a lot slower. You're gonna have to like just have more patience. You're gonna need to like take care a lot more of warm-ups and gradual opening of your body. So you're really gonna have to master your the art of being patient and just go for the journey rather than the goal. Of course, everybody wants to have the split. I want to just have the back bend right now, but I'm like, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna talk about this soon, it's really not about the goal. Everybody says that, like, I heard this before, but it is about what you're learning in the journey. So also another thing about when you're starting younger, your body is, I call it like, I say this, is like your body is set. It's not so set in its own way. And what does that mean is when you're like older, your body is just a little more like programmed. It's like in things, it's like it moves like this. He just becomes more structured in his habits. And unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, the body is very comfortable with habits. So either you have very good habits, like you're very active, you eat healthy, you sleep well, you manage your stress, or you have bad habits, you don't sleep, you don't train, you're lazy, you eat bad food, you're stressed out of your mind and you don't cope with it. The body is gonna set in its own way with time. So if you have good habit, the flexibility, it will come, a little easier. But if you are like someone that already has a lifestyle that doesn't really, promote a healthy behavior, it's gonna be hard for you to like have patience and starting, and also, it's gonna be painful to some degree to train flexibility. So I would say when you're younger, you're more like a blank canvas. So you're just like, oh, my body is so fresh, doesn't have injury, doesn't have history. And this is also what I wanted to talk about. There is no history. Like your body, it's more like fresh, right? Like there's no baggage, there's no history, there's no emotional trauma stored in your body, because I also believe that like we store emotions in the body. So of course, when you're older, there's just more factors to consider than when you're younger. But all this to say that with a right positive intention, like if you want something, you get it. Honestly, I don't believe anything else than that. Like if you have a goal and you are okay with what it takes to get there, you're gonna get it. So for me, if you're older wanting to start flexibility and you're kind of confused on how to go about it, for me it's like start super easy, which means have a set routine. Either, first of all, I would say you can hire a coach, because that would be the best thing you can do when you're starting from zero. And you don't want to like, I don't believe self-taught thing when it comes to flexibility. You can maybe take a group class, but you need to be guided in some way, because you can really get hurt. So I would say have a coach if you can, and then you start easy. You start with like a 30 minutes every other day, or an hour every other day, and then you build on it. But also you're gonna have to like be okay with like warming up correctly, doing exercise. If you have current injuries, you're gonna have to like take care of those. If you want to use your body in a full range of motion, but you have arthritis in your shoulder, or you have like an old injury that kind of comes back here and there, honestly, mobility and flexibility, it requires your body to be almost on its top shape to deliver like really high functional movement, right? So I would say you are gonna have to deal with whatever thing you maybe neglected in the past, because it's like, well, I don't care about the split, so I'll just leave my hip be, even if it's not doing well. I would say you're gonna have to address whatever problem or history problem you have. So yeah, and then you're going to be maybe taking care of your nutrition better. Remember, the body when it ages, it really just need more help. I don't believe in aging, to be honest. I don't believe that we have to just give up and be like, well, this is going to happen, the body's just going to fall apart, we're going to be crippled and not be walking, we're going to have to walk with a stick. And I don't believe that, to be honest. I think it's all about your lifestyle and how you maintain that in the long run. So I think when you are, starting flexibility and you're at an older age, you're gonna have your goal needs to be realistic. You're not gonna try to go to the circus when you're 60 or 50, but you're gonna wanna like take care of your training that way, like progressively, little by little, good warm-ups, addressing your old injury, addressing nutrition. Is very important that your body is in a really good condition on that level. You need to eat nutritious, dense food. You gotta have your vitamins checked, your blood tests. You gotta see what deficiency you have. There's a lot of nutrients that are essential for your health, especially when we're talking about flexibility. Like you need to have a good amount of omega-3s in your diet, because it fights inflammation. And training promote, even flexibility. There's some degree of inflammation every time you train. So vitamin-rich food, omega-3s, for example. I'm just like saying like nutrients that just come up to me in my mind. Like you just need to have making sure you have those nutritious diet. You have this nutritious diet down, and then if you're lacking something, you supplement with it. Like like you're taking collagen. Like for example, I've been taking collagen and glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM for a long time. I just do that to like kind of help my joints to stay like functional. So I say that helps too. And then on top of that, your sleep, your recovery, your stress level. If you're someone that it's constantly in emotional stress or physical stress for some reason, your body will not be able to really show you results. So there are so many factors, and honestly, this is what I do when I train with my coach. When I train with my clients one-on-one, my approach is very holistic, in the sense that I don't really like talk about training with them. Besides telling them what exercise to do and how often and how to go about it, weekly in and out, we talked about nutrition, we talked about sleep, we talk about hormones, we talk about also you got to know about your hormones. They have play a huge role into your, you know, your flexibility. We talk about water intake, stress. We talk about how to manage stress, how to improve. Basically, all these pieces. It's not this the training in the middle for the training to try. Well, a heart came out. For the training to thrive, you really need all these pieces in place. I don't think you can have an amazing training without your sleep having good sleep. I don't think you can have amazing training if your diet is trash. I don't think you can have amazing trainer if you're an emotional wreck. I don't think you can have amazing training if you are hurting from your old injuries. Like if you go about it like I go about it, like I go all in when it comes to something that I love, you'll understand that it's never like, am I old to be too flexible? I'm like, it's not about how old you are. It's about like, are you willing to take care of all these things? It's pretty much like the better you feel, the better your life becomes, the more of a chance you're going to have to really do really well with flexibility. So to me, in a way, you need to really care about yourself as a whole, like entity. It's not just the flexibility, how old I am, I'm not old, I'm not. Dude, like, it's not age, it's about everything else you do with it. Okay, so that's the first question. I'm trying to spend 15 minutes for each question so we can go on and we don't waste too much time. I mean, it's not a waste of time, but you know what I mean. So the next thing is another question that I get asked a lot, and is, will weights makes me stiff? So as you know, I'm a huge supporter of weight training. And the reason being is I don't think if we want to be training long term, living healthy long term, and really thrive in life, I don't think you can really like, you know, avoid weights. To me, weights is like a building block for so many things and such a big element in supporting your flexibility. So a lot of people ask me like, well, am I gonna get tight? What happened to the flexibility? I'm stretching and then I do lift weights and then I get tight. And I'm like, well, you will get tight. So the question to this is, will weights makes me stiff? To me is yes and no. So let me explain why. Yes, when you lift weights, you create micro tears in your muscles. This is how it works. So you do stimulate your muscle with weights, and the muscle kind of like do small little tears in it. So you create inflammation, right? And then what happens is when you rest, this is actually the part that matters, is when you rest. When you rest, your muscles repair. And because the body has this ability to repair and improve its shape, what happens is the muscles grows a little bigger, a little stronger, a little more toned, a little more prepared for the next time this happens. Like next time you lift, you make me break, I'm gonna be more prepared for this. So the body keeps getting stronger because the weight training, it creates these micro tears, right? So because the body gets stronger, in a way, it also gets the side effect of weight training is you get sore because of your you're repairing tissue, you're recovering, and your body produces, I think it's lactic acid. I forgot the whole situation there, but yeah. So you create this sensation of like your body is tight, so it doesn't really feel so flexible afterwards. So I really teach my students and my clients that you shouldn't be afraid to stretch when you're tight. Honestly, you should kind of train your body to be like stretching when it's sore, when it's tight, when it's sore. By the way, I want to make a distinction between tightness and soreness. So to me, tightness means my body is just not having it, which means it's overall tight. It can be coming from hormonal fluctuation, lack of sleep, emotional stress, and sometimes God knows why. Like it's just, I am tight and I don't know why. So when you're tight, it almost feels more on a joint level. It's a weird feeling because tightness is just this generic like discomfort where you're like, it's the muscles, the joint. I just like, I'm tight. I feel that especially when it comes to like hormones. Throughout the months we have as women, there's a role play of progesterone and estrogen that has a huge role in how your body is affected in terms of how flexible you feel, how energetic you feel, how much in a good mood you feel. You know, it has a lot to do with those hormones. So what I'm saying is, when you are tight, it's gonna feel a certain way. When you're sore, it's more of a feeling like you're like, oh, it's kind of hard to lift off the chair because my legs are sore. I trained my glutes yesterday, or my arms, or my shoulder. I'm just sore, but I feel it's my muscles. It's not overall like I'm feeling like crippled tight, you know. So in that case, it's just muscle. You know, most of the time it's just muscles. Um, Muscle tightness equals soreness to me in a way. It translates to that. So okay, no matter what the situation being is, it's you're tight or you're sore, I always say you gotta stretch over it, because again, not aggressively. I would say um, one thing that I tell my students, so first of all, you shouldn't be extremely sore all the time, which means if you're doing weight training, you should aim for type of weight and frequency with weights that's fitting your goal. Like, you know, if you are, I don't know, could be just someone that goes to the gym, and let's say you want to get your split and your bridges as a main goal for flexibility. Could be, I want to get my splits and get a nice bridge, but I also do weight training. Depending on your goal, on your experience with weights, you're not gonna kill yourself with weights 5 times a week and then stretch 2 times a week thinking, well, I stretch 2 times a week, but I like to do weights, and now why am I so tight? I don't see results. So you're going to like kind of like find a good balance between weights and training, and I'm going to talk about this shortly in a second. But overall, you want to stretch when you feel tight. I will also suggest you to foam roll really well. So I'm a big believer of foam rolling to ease the soreness. When I'm tight, when I'm sore, I sit on my foam roller. I've got different types of foam roller. I like to just give it a nice roll and just open up my body and just feel like that really helps. It's kind of like a self massage. Like massaging the body promotes blood flow, which promotes healing, and the soreness kind of like, you know, breaks down the soreness. And after a good amount of foam rolling, you can introduce some light stretching. I also prefer passive stretches when I'm sore or tight, because when I'm very sore or very tight, going to activate a muscle, unless I'm really like, okay, today I gotta do my contortion session and I'm gonna do this no matter what. I have my non-negotiable, I have my conditioning that I have to do. If that's the day, I'm like, I'll just suck it up, foam roll, do like a good amount of passive, and then do my conditioning and my active flexibility drills. But if I can decide, I would totally go for a more of a passive approach, because I just want to open up my body. You know what I mean? It's like when you're very sore, which again, you shouldn't be extremely sore every time. That means it's too intense, the weight training you're doing. When you're very sore or sore, a good passive sessions of stretching, which is like sitting in your lunges, sitting your hamstring stretches, doing your frog, shoulder stretches, it really kind of helps the soreness to get away from your body. So I would say, if that's the case, you want to stretch over your soreness. And again, some people are like, dude, this sucks. I don't like to stretch when I'm sore. I'm like, I know, but at some point you got to do what you don't want to do. You know how it is. So I think that's one thing to say. Like, you're going to have to stretch when you're sore. I'm sorry. And also, another thing that I want to touch base is, also, I always suggest, this is a big thing that I tell my students when we do one-on-one programs. When I write their program, the weight training program especially, I tell them, you have to stretch within your weight training session. And what that means is, you are going to finish your set. Let's say you're doing squats. You're going to rest, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes before you do the next set. You stretch your glutes. Simple stretch, 30 seconds. Like, oh, is it going to take forever to finish the session? I'm like, no, instead of being on your phone scrolling, or you can be on your phone scrolling if you want, but just have a stretch while you're there. So stretch in between sets and stretch at the end of your sessions if you can. It could be a 10-15 minute stretch. Again, I'm not saying that you should do weight training and flexibility together, but you can totally introduce more flexibility in your session with weights. And this is why I go down to also you to say this is you need to know what is your priority. Because when you know your priority, you have a clear idea on how you gotta manage your training in general. Like for example, some people think I lift so much weight, oh, her priority must be getting stronger and bigger. Guys, no. My priority will be forever weight flexibility because it took me so long to become flexible. You're gonna be like, oh, that's not true. I'm like, no. I mean, I've been stretching for almost 13 years now, non-stop, never stopped. And I'm thinking, it took me so long to get here that now I'm like, I need to protect this flexibility. I don't want to lose it. It feels really good in my body. I love it. And I know even though I'm so far off in my journey, like I got so many skills down, flexibility is very high maintenance. Flexibility, it goes away like this. To be honest, you'll be like, oh, that's not possible. I'm like, it really goes. Flexibility, it needs maintenance. So I would say my main priority is always flexibility. So because I know that's my priority, I throw in flexibility everything I do. Like I go to the gym for weights, I throw some handstands, some splits, some back bends, just in between sets. Because I want to tell this message to my body. My body knows we are flexible all the time, forever, always. So if you teach your body that flexibility is just a natural part of your being, and you throw it in there in everything you do, like you have your sessions of flexibility on a Monday, then you have legs on a Tuesday, but like during legs training, you're throwing there some lunges, some splits. And again, it doesn't have to be a whole, like people are like, oh my God, I want to be at the gym for 4 hours. I'm like, no, you can do one minute of a stretch, like a lunge in between lunge, between like deadlift, do one lunge. Like, but your body needs to know that whatever is your priority is more dominant in your life. So, and that could be the opposite for someone that's very naturally flexible, because I'm talking from experience, being like, I would say I have an average flexibility baseline with a maybe more hip dominant natural flexibility body type. But my back has never been flexible. Like I could testify that it always felt really, really hard to open up, and it was very painful at the beginning because it would just not move. But for my body type that tends to tighten up, especially upper body, like I just dedicate a lot of time to keep it open. And if you are more of a natural type of body type with flexibility, you're like just bendy and you just do very little warm up and you go in a bridge, maybe your strength training is your priority. So every time you train, you gotta throw in there some strength stuff. Like you're doing contortion, you throw in there some like back extension, glute exercise, some strengthening of the shoulder. Like that is your priorities. Like I'm already flexible baseline. And this is also for someone that's younger, usually it really is a good approach. I need to throw in there some support because those joints are really mobile, like hyperextended and overly flexible, hypermobile people. They need the muscle to support and stabilize and act as a cushion for their joint not to get out of place and be pulled in different direction and getting damage. So again, you need to know your priority. You need to know if you're naturally flexible, naturally tight. So now you know also how to go about it with your body. And then you need to know how to marry the two trainings, the flexibility training and the weight training. They gotta be in harmony. And I teach this again in my one-on-one program. I teach how to combine the two, because this is probably the hardest thing is people don't understand how to be flexible and strong, because they look at these two entities like they're like far apart. They don't belong to the same world, but there is a way to have them work together. And I think that is really when you open up to another level of possibility within your body, is when you connect those two very important elements. Like you cannot really be flexible in the long run without strength. The same way, I think you cannot be so strong without some level at least of flexibility. So I think when you have those two words, you are limitless, to be honest. So, okay. Wow, this was 15 minutes on the dot. I'm doing good. All right, so that's what I wanted to tell you. Now we're gonna go for the last Yeah, the last topic, the last question. How long will it take me to become flexible? So we talked about age, we talked about being tight with weights, and now we're gonna talk about how long. People always want to know the time frame. I'm like, tell me how long. I need to know. Like, first of all, you know what's coming. This is the answer that you already know is gonna come, but it depends. I know you knew. So it depends, guys. It really depends, but on so many freaking factors. I'll just tell you the factors to begin with. The factor is it depends by age. I mean, I told you, like the younger you are, the faster you're gonna get flexible. The older you are, the slower it's gonna be. You're still gonna get there. Just hear me out. You're still gonna get there. So don't give up. But it will take more time. It's like this is how it is. If you're younger, the body's just like there. If you're older, the body's just slower. You gotta be more patient. Also, I mean, the sex. If you are like a male or a female, it depends because, to be honest, I know there are male, you know, performer or practitioner of either contortion, flexibility. They do really well, but usually those men they have some level of natural flexibility within their body. They already have more like a little bit more loose joints. Their body just opened up more naturally, and those are usually the one they're called toward the those type of arts, you know, dancing, contortion, gymnastics. Like they're just drawn to it because they feel it in their body. It's like, my body want to go there. So usually men that I see, they get into this type of like practices, yoga even. I mean, I would say depending on the level, they have some sort of like internal like natural flexibility as their baseline. They're like naturally flexible. Because overall, I would say men or males being dominated by testosterone, which is the main hormones of present in male body, and responsible for muscle mass, is just higher. So higher testosterone would mean also a higher density muscle mass, but also tightness, right? So it doesn't really goes well. Testosterone doesn't really like transfer in flexibility. That's why being female, you have estrogen dominant body and progesterone, and those are and other many other hormones. Don't ask me all of them because there are many, and those are more in line with flexibility. So I would say if you're female, you have a higher chance to get more flexible faster, and also I think you are a bigger chance because your body is more predisposed. Predisposed. Sometimes I just invent words, guys, to be flexible, right? Just because of the hormone that it produces. And then the other thing is, so I said age, sex. The other factor determining how long it will take you to be flexible is your natural baseline. I told you, I talk about this a lot because natural baseline is how was your body born? It has flexibility naturally to some degree or not. And when I talk about some degree, is there are people that are extremely flexible naturally. Their joints, and remember, it's about the ligaments for the most part. The ligaments are just loose, like kind of like toddlers. They keep that very soft ligament tissue almost throughout their whole life. I'm not saying all of their life, but like for a long time. They have that loose and they get dislocation, they have problems with like stability, and they have their own fair share of issues too. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like just all fun because they're flexible. But I would say there are those type of people. And then there's people like a little bit in the middle. I'll consider myself a little bit in the middle. Like I have a good natural hip mobility. Like for me, splits were never really hard. But then I have my back that felt really hard all the time. Then there's people that have very flexible back and they don't have flexible hip. So there's a lot of like different levels to this baseline of natural flexibility, being like people super flexible naturally, and then different degrees of some flexibility naturally in some places of the body, and then people that are just like, I'm tight everywhere. And this is the people that they're gonna struggle the most. I'm sorry, but you can, and get me wrong, everybody can be flexible, but the degree of which type of flexibility you're gonna get to, it depends by your natural baseline. So if you are very tight naturally, you're not gonna become a contortionist. I mean, you can, but I mean, it will be very, very intense and almost too much discomfort for your body. And I'm talking again, don't take these as like, oh my God, I'm so tight. I'm like, I'm not, you don't know yet your baseline. I'll tell you this. You cannot really know your baseline when you are a beginner. You need to move and see how your body responds for a few years, to be honest, because I didn't know my baseline for a long time. It's either a coach train with you and look at you and how you move and he would know, but you don't know because you cannot compare yourself to other bodies because there are times that I have a very freaking hard time with my flexibility. I'm like, I'm not naturally flexible at all. Like, I mean, there's been times that I was like, dude, like, I'm fucking tight. But then I see other people, I'm like, oh, wow, they are tight. So don't tell yourself, like, oh, okay, she said, like, if I'm too tight, I'm never going to be a contortionist. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, give yourself a good, fair few years. And then you decide how you would want to live this life. If you want to struggle super hard, your body is really, really tight. I've seen some people, honestly, I've seen a couple people that they took like 3 years to get a split. And I'm like, dude, you did it and I'm proud of you. But I would say our normal body type, the average time frame, depending, again, age, sex, natural baseline, don't get me wrong, those are all important factors. I would say 1 year. If you are now average body type, female, around 20, 30, or a little plus than 30, maybe it's very hard. I don't want to throw out there a number because people be like, okay, so next year I'm gonna have the split. You should see a major improvement though in 1 year at least. I would say nothing less than 3 months to really see some changes in the body, and at least 6 months to a year to kind of notice like, oh, I'm going somewhere with this. So my one-on-one programs are not less than 6 months. So right now I don't take people for less than that because I don't believe in less than that. If I follow you and it's 2 sessions for a month, I'm like, I don't believe in that because I know how this works. Like, I need you to commit because that's how it works. You need to have a vision of like, I'm gonna give it my all. I hope to see some changes within 3 months. And then by the 6 months, by the year mark, I should see some visible changes. And usually, again, this is very, I don't want to give you numbers because people want to know numbers. I'm like, give me the number. I want to know how long. This is very subjective. Some people in 1 month, they're like fucking down in splits, doing backbends. I mean, it all depends what your baseline is. And you're not going to know what your baseline is unless you train and try things and give yourself a fair share. Give yourself a good 6 months to a year, all in, 3 times a week at least. At least start with an hour. I always tell, again, my client, and I mean, I'm here also to promote my one-on-one program, I guess, but like, it's true. We build a program that's manageable, that fits in your routine. So you create good habits. I usually also try to habit stacking. I like habit stacking. If you have good habits, I'll try to attach some good habits on what you already have going. I try to work with your schedule. We're trying to make a plan that it's enjoyable to some degree. That's like giving you like, not overwhelming you, because I don't like for people to feel like stressed when they start training. Like, it should be a positive experience where you're learning about your body, you're seeing improvement, and you getting to the result you want. But along the way, you learn a lot about yourself. You really learn a lot about yourself. That's why I feel like, yes, everybody wants the goal. Everybody wants to see the result. But at the end of the day, once you get to the result, you're going to want more. Because you know how it is. You get there, you're like, and now what? So, so that's what to say. That's all this to say. You need how long it takes. It depends on natural baseline, sex, age, and also 2 more things I want to touch base real quick before we end. It also depends on your consistency level and your patient, because to me, I know people, if they're gonna make it. I'm not gonna lie, I know if people are gonna know is if they're gonna make it or not by how they're consistent, how much they can go through the ups and downs of their moods, of life, or their body. Like, I know if someone's gonna get far in training if I can like see that their mind is in the right place, I'm like, okay, this person's really on it. Like I like their mindset is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for their body so much. Like I need the mindset to be in the right place, because I really think in this type of training, it all comes down to how is your mind set up. Like I have to be honest, be honest. I am very consistent person. Like my student knows, my people that knows me knows. Like when it's time for training, forget about Sophia. She's training. Like it's her thing. It's like my life. It makes me happy. It's just my medium to like for a lot of things to connect with myself, to feel good and centered. So I am a very committed person. Like I put my training, it's one of my highest priority in life. So, and I don't think you need to be exactly like me. Like, I mean, you can have, you know, you don't need to do all the things. Oh, I want to be contortion, weight training, go crazy. Like I go pretty hard because I enjoy it. But I think if you still want to, see result, you need to make sure that this training is up on the top 3 priority in your lives, because it takes so much out of you. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes to go through ups and downs, it takes you to show up on your worst day when you're like, I don't know, you're going through things. Like we all have those days, and you need to, if I can see that you can be consistent and I can help you, I help my student to be consistent. We have weekly check-ins, I talk to them on WhatsApp, we have a community groups on WhatsApp where we talked about training all the time, and we share progress pictures and things. I really want to like help people to stay on track, because consistency is one of the hardest things. People come to me and I can tell how excited they are in the first month, but to me it's like, how long are you going to keep this going? Like I want you to build a good habit and strengthen your consistency and your patience, because this is a slow journey. It's a slow journey, adaptation. You're like changing your nervous system response to movement. You need to move and just be patient and build that consistency. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I know wasn't many of you, maybe also the time change, or maybe you just had something else to do on Sundays. So, but anyway, it was fun to be with you today, and honestly, I'll keep this up as I usually do, so you can watch again, you can hear in your car, you can hear it tonight for you to sleep, I don't know. But that's it, guys. Have a good day, and thank you for tuning in. Bye. And bye to you too. You too.